When our guy arrives for his first class as the new professor at the Magic Academy, all the students look at him with suspicion. They're convinced he's just a joke who doesn't really know anything. So Rudiger decides to start the lesson by demonstrating a simple spell. He explains that he's going to teach them how to cast spells faster than anyone else. At that moment, the top student raises her hand and says, "That's impossible." "There's a limit," she explains. "A threshold beyond which it's simply impossible to cast a spell any faster." The students immediately start whispering among themselves, waiting to see how this new professor embarrasses himself. But instead of arguing, Rudiger calls her to the front of the class and asks her to cast a firebolt as fast as she possibly can. As Flora casts the spell, Rudiger measures the time. She finishes in less than 5 seconds, and all the students are amazed by how fast she does it. But our guy isn't impressed at all. He simply tells her that was too slow. Flora can't believe her ears, and neither can the rest of the class. Could he really do it faster? Rudiger calmly raises his wand and instantly casts the exact same spell. The students can't understand what just happened or how he managed to do it in less than half a second. As for Flora, she can't even find the words to respond. Now everyone is asking the same question. Who the heck is this professor? So here's how his story began. The young professor walks on the train platform, heading toward the train. The station master checks the tickets of passengers and welcomes them. After showing his ticket, our hero gets inside the train. He finds his cabin and sits in front of an old gentleman. The train starts moving toward its destination, and it's snowing outside. Our protagonist starts reading a book while the old man looks at today's newspaper. Rudiger gets delighted when he reads the news of the end of the Civil War. Both exchange words of happiness regarding the end of the Civil War and introduce themselves to each other. Gerard guesses from Rudiger's name that he belongs to nobility, and the boy confirms it by saying it's fallen, and he is heading toward the capital. Gerard is surprised to know that he is a professor at a magic academy. He assumes that the boy is a very skilled professional. They keep talking about the Civil War and the person who plays the main role in it. They enjoy each other's company. Suddenly, they hear a loud blast. Both are surprised and scared. Rudiger opens the door and looks outside. There is no one here, not even a single passenger. The old gentleman shows his concern about the power of the attackers because the train is protected by powerful magic. The blast is very close to their cabin, and as both men are standing and wondering what is happening, suddenly a robber jumps into their cabin by breaking the window glass, creating a panic situation. The boy hits the robber with his cane and knocks him out. As both gentlemen think about what to do, the intruder suddenly jumps up and shows his suicide vest. Within 2 seconds, there is a large explosion, and smoke is everywhere. There is only the old gentleman standing in the cabin in front of a large hole in the wall. He is sad about the loss of the young professor. In a mix of emotions, sadness and anger, the old man removes his mask and appears as a young and strong warrior. Rudiger chooses the name Machiavelli from one of his previous lives just to disguise himself, as he constantly changes his identities. This time, he escapes from the princess's army by becoming an old man. He is still thinking about the young Rudiger and feels sad for his death. The way the robbers attack a train and one of them blasts himself just to kill them makes him think they are not common train robbers. They must be psychos and not worried about their own lives. The train inspector enters the cabin and wonders what is happening. Our mercenary tells the train officer to stay away from here because it's dangerous. The train officer is concerned about the safety of other passengers and wants to evacuate them from their cabins. Our protagonist shows his doubts to the officer, grabs him by his neck, and starts inquiring about his involvement in this blast. As he tightens his grip on the neck of the inspector, the train officer attacks him with a small knife. But Rudiger is too smart for him and controls him with ease. As Rudiger is busy in interrogation, he suddenly hears gunshots and quickly jumps to the train floor. As he tries to figure it out, he notices the train officer is lying dead on the ground, and 4 armed robbers are inside the cabin. The leader of the intruders is surprised to see him alive even after the blast. Our protagonist challenges them. The intruders point their guns at him and try to shoot him, but to their surprise, their guns are jammed, and they can't shoot a single shot. Rudiger opens a power circle of magic. The intruder's leader understands that he is a powerful mage and probably a level 4 mage. Our mercenary laughs at them and says it's useless to attack him. Rudiger makes his escape and decides to jump out of the moving train. The evil leader orders Hansen to check for him, but to their surprise, the warrior is gone. They hear footsteps on the train's roof. Their leader orders them to go after the warrior and send some of his men to the first carriage. The intruders start shooting at the train's roof where our protagonist is trying to save his life. Rudiger attacks back with his magic spells and kills a few of the attackers. Now the tables are turned, and the attackers are scared and in a panic. Their leader quickly realizes that the boy is separating their carriage from their train. Now he regrets his failure to recognize his opponent's powers. As the gang leader shouts loudly that he will find him and kill him, he realizes the strong presence of powerful magic near him. To his surprise, our protagonist appears in front of them and throws a strong and bright magical light at them. In a second, all intruders fall dead to the floor, only their leader stands, but he loses one arm and half of his face, and he is badly injured. In anger, the gang leader curses him and, in a painful voice, cries, Rudiger stands strong and says the gang leader tried to kill him first. Now Rudiger returns the favor to him. He was trying to escape but threatened him by saying he was going to find him and kill him, so he returns. Our hero notices someone cut the gang leader in half from his backside. He wonders who that could be. A beautiful female warrior appears from the intruder's back, smiles, and assures them to not worry as she's here. In the first carriage, a group of intruders is surprised to see a royal soldier. The young royal soldier attacks the intruders with his magic and kills them all in the blink of an eye. The same thing happens in the second carriage. Both soldiers report to their captain, who is present right now with our protagonist. In a few seconds, a third soldier reports to their captain that the whole train is secure and the passengers are safe. Young female Vice Captain Veronia DeVille congratulates her soldiers and orders them to escort the passengers to the next station. Meanwhile, Gennard is thinking about Rudiger, a young, skilled professor who he wasn't able to save from robbers. Now Gennard turns his attention and thinks about Theron Academy and how he can save himself from that secret association. In the third carriage, Remulus, a police officer, enters and inquires about the situation. Veronia introduces herself to the officer and informs him that they have already eliminated the attackers. The police inspector shows concern about the fast attack and how they were able to capture a magically protected train so quickly. Even if a mage is among the intruders, it's not possible for them to capture it too quickly without inside help. Veronia also thinks that it's impossible with an inside informer. But it's just a possibility, we are not sure about it. Now the police officer turns his attention toward Rudiger and thinks that if he identifies himself he can go, but he must be honest. Our protagonist thinks before he speaks that he did everything right. The only thing wrong is his appearance. Right now, he doesn't look like a person in his late 40s. He calculates the presence of the police and royal soldiers on the train, and if they identify him, he will get into trouble with serious consequences. But to the surprised police officer, who is checking the train records, he mistakenly identifies him as young Rudiger Chelsea, who just died during the blast. Our protagonist confirms his identity as Rudiger and tells the officer that old Gennard fell from the train during the blast. The female captain confirms his innocence by testifying in his favor as she saw him fighting the terrorists. Now, our protagonist finds his new identity. To her surprise, Veronia finds out from Rudiger's records that he is appointed to Theron Academy. Both look at the young warrior and smile at each other, confirming it. The warrior is quite happy with his accidental new identity, and the train reaches the capital. At the capital train station, Gennard, who is now Rudiger, thanks both the officer and the vice captain and starts walking away from them. He is happy that he escaped because of his new identity and looks just like young Rudiger. Outside the station, a butler is waiting for him. The butler introduces himself as an employee of the academy and that he is here to take him there and show his concerns about the attack on the train. On the way to Theron, Rudiger starts thinking about the trouble he is in. The appearance of the butler is also suspicious, as he looks strong and sharp. He sorts out that it's safer for him to continue as Rudiger, as long as no one finds out his true identity. In a short while, they reach Theron. Rudiger is surprised by the size of the building. Theron's employee informs him that the Chancellor is waiting for him, and that they are going to meet His Highness right now and guides him toward the Chancellor's office. The warrior walks straight toward it. When he enters the large building of the Chancellor's office, he sees a beautiful woman sitting behind the desk. She introduces herself as Elisa Willow, Chancellor of Theron. The Chancellor shows her worries about the attack and concerns about his safety. Rudiger explains how royal soldiers saved the train and defeated the terrorists. The young woman tells our protagonist how happy they are about his safe arrival at the academy. Rudiger rejects overthinking that women can be a threat to him or that she may have already met Rudiger before. He sighs in relief when the Chancellor explains that it's her first meeting with Rudiger and how much he impresses her with his handsome appearance and a flirting chat. The lady hands over the contract letter to our protagonist and explains the terms of it. It's a 2-year contract with boarding and lodging from the academy. Rudiger thinks it's a good offer, even though he plans to leave this place as soon as possible. He is surprised by the large salary they offer him. It's equal to 300 million Korean wons. The Chancellor is surprised by the terms of Rudiger and explains the benefits. But our protagonist is not surprised by the offer and stays calm, starting to think about their expectations from him. He signs the contract. The Chancellor welcomes him with a handshake. Now, he is sitting in his room and thinking he must prepare for the lectures he is going to give in 3 weeks. He also thinks about his past life and his parents, how he managed to overcome all the challenges in his life, and now he is a professor at a magic academy. He thinks self-belief is his power and starts gathering information about the real Rudiger Chelsea. To his surprise, he finds out that he is the only child of his parents and not close to his relatives. He figures out that it's a perfect opportunity for him to start a new life and disguise himself as a professor. Now he only needs to acquire information about the subjects and the academy. But right now, he feels hungry and goes to the restaurant. In 2 weeks, our protagonist studies and searches about the academy. While he is sitting in a restaurant, a lady appears and sits behind him. She starts asking about him in a secret way and tells him that she and other members are waiting for him and wondering why he has not contacted them in the last 2 weeks. Our surprised professor starts wondering who that woman is and why she is looking for the real Rudiger Chelsea. She shows her concerns about the train attack and inquires about it. Our protagonist tells her to forget about the attack and says he needs more information about Theron. The professor is trying to get as much information as he can and wants to find out who that woman is and what it's all about, but at the same time, he wants to stay in this disguise. He continues playing as Rudiger and demands more information from her. The woman informs him about their work and progress they made. The professor senses great danger and tries to calm himself. He starts inquiring about the reason she is visiting him right now. As she replies about her worries, our protagonist takes control of the situation and demands the details about the plans. Telling the woman to never contact him again, Rudiger starts walking away from there. Now, he realizes that the young boy he met on the train is the leader of a ruthless mafia. Now, the professor is sitting in his bedroom trying to figure out Rudiger Chelsea's plan. He quickly realizes that it's a trap for him, and escaping alive from here isn't as easy as it looks. He also finds coded messages from Rudiger Chelsea, which are not easy to read. He is a genius young professor, a level 4 mage, and a member of a dangerous society. How can he escape from here? Now he understands the seriousness of the situation he accidentally put himself in. It's not only the academy he has to worry about, but also the secret order known as the Zero Order. He becomes more scared as he decodes the message, which tells him why they want to infiltrate the academy as professors. One thing worries him the most: what happens next after they achieve their target? After some thought, he figures out that if a young boy can plan that much and he's a spy, then he can escape the train attack. Now he starts making his own plan. He should stay close to the Chancellor. He thinks if he can leak information to the authorities without them knowing it's him, he must play both sides and try not to get caught. He must keep in mind that he is spending 2 years here, so he'd better get prepared for it. Inside the classroom, students are discussing the new professor who is about to give lectures. They talk about their ex-professor, and a female student named Flora wants to know more about the professor's family. The professor enters the classroom and introduces himself. He announces that, in his class, he will focus on actual battle usage beyond theory. The students start talking about this new subject. A beautiful girl inquires about the subject. Her face looks familiar to the professor. He replies, as an educator, it's his duty to teach every student equally, regardless of their year. After giving an introduction about himself and the lectures he will give, he allows the students to ask any questions they have about him. But to his surprise, no one asks any questions. As he is about to leave the classroom, a beautiful young female professor introduces herself as Selena. Rudiger wonders what she wants from him. To his surprise, she invites him to lunch. Outside the classrooms, a few professors introduce themselves to the protagonist one by one: Brino, Merida, and a few others. Among them stands a young, good-looking professor named Chris Benamore. He belongs to a noble family, and he is rude, looking down on common people. All the professors are leading professionals in their fields. Our professor suspects that one of them could be in the Zero Order. The rude noble professor refuses to stay and talk to them and leaves. He just came here to see the new teacher. Chris insults Rudiger and calls him a fallen noble, a commoner. Everyone is upset by his rude and insulting behavior. The professor invites Rudiger to lunch, and they all start walking toward the canteen. Rudiger is glad that he doesn't have to eat alone anymore. At the same time, a young lady is using her magic powers to search for information about the protagonist in detail. She is the same girl who met the professor at the restaurant. While walking toward his classroom, the professor is thinking about the students. He wonders how many students are going to show up today. As he did last time, he mentions his strict rules, assuming that maybe very few students will dare to come to today's class. When he enters his classroom, he realizes he's wrong. The classroom is full of students. He thinks maybe they mixed the first-year students with second-year students. He keeps wondering why there are so many students. The students can feel his strong personality as he enters. They discuss that he really looks like a military man. Our protagonist feels the pressure to deliver a lecture. So many students, and all of them are the cream of the crop, highly intelligent and smart. Maybe they see Rudiger as a challenge. He gathers his confidence and calms himself down. In a confident voice, he introduces himself. Suddenly, a student stands up and inquires about the subject. The professor replies in a dominating tone, sitting down and waiting until he allows anyone else to speak. Rudiger starts lecturing and surprises everyone with his skills and knowledge of the advanced subject. The students can't believe their eyes when the professor demonstrates practical skills. With his stick, he creates a magical circle and starts explaining it. Rudiger realizes many students are looking confused and want to know more about it, so he allows them to ask if they want to know more. Suddenly, many students stand up and start inquiring about the advanced magic circle. The professor explains his magic circle of manifestation in great detail. A girl named Flora stands up and shows her doubt about his technique. Flora stands up and introduces herself as a second-year student, almost challenging him by saying it's impossible. A student starts gossiping, and Flora begins inquiring, thinking she's going to put the professor in difficulty. The professor allows her and starts by doubting his technique of opening the circle. She adds that no one before him has been able to practice it. Rudiger explains it's great, emphasizing that magic and history are still there in their old ways, but science is progressing at a fast pace. He explains how science is superior and that magic still needs to improve. He proves Flora wrong and explains that if others are not improving themselves, why shouldn't they be the ones to improve? The professor answers angrily, but Rudiger continues to explain to the class. Flora is furious and wants to prove him wrong. The professor realizes this and allows her to come up and show everyone how she can do it better than him. Flora steps up to the stage and shows her skills. She's fast and skillful. In a matter of seconds, she activates the circle and surprises everyone, including Rudiger. The professor is surprised but keeps his composure and tells Flora she's slow and needs to practice more. Rudiger tells her to pay attention, and in the blink of an eye he opens a circle and surprises everyone, including Flora. Her eyes widen as if she's looking at something impossible or miraculous. Seeing the students' surprised faces, the professor does it again, this time much faster, in only half a second. He introduces this technique as the source code. Flora is impressed by the young professor and wonders who he is. Actually, she looks more than impressed. Rudiger clears all of Flora's doubts and warns her never to disturb him during his lectures again. Rudiger takes her actions as a personal insult and imposes a penalty of 10 points on her. Everyone in class looks surprised. Flora puts her head down and starts walking toward her seat. The professor praises her flame blot and gives her 10 points just to cheer her up. Cheryl, a friend of Flora's, asks if she's all right. She replies that she's okay. Finally, Rudiger starts the lecture, and now everyone shows interest in it. The professor proves his dominance. After some time, he concludes the lecture, tells his students to review it, and leaves the room. In the classroom, an arrogant student starts mocking another student named Aiden, telling him he's Baron Phalios, a nobleman. The pretty boy walks into the room and mocks the noble family of the Baron. The Baron loses his temper, using insulting words and challenging him. However, the Baron gets scared and leaves the room. Aiden and Leo go outside together. Leo warns Aiden not to be too obvious and to understand the culture at the academy. He also informs Aiden to be careful with Flora and students like her. These students are from noble families and can create serious trouble for them, as they are commoners. They also talk about the third princess, Arendir von Exilion, who is from the bloodline of the Exilion Empire. They both agree not to get involved with royalty. During this discussion, a name also comes up, Proyden Volberg. It's a mindset of nobles to look down on them as insects. Both agree on this. Their professor walks through the corridors, still thinking about his students' reactions. He admits he wasn't expecting it. He also thinks about the source code, wondering if it's a combination of magic and science. He knows he must improve himself in order to continue teaching here. He reaches his office and is surprised to see the Chancellor there. She welcomes Rudiger and informs him about his new office space. The Chancellor wants to know whether he likes his new office. The professor can sense her interest in him. The boy also suspects what she knows about him, or if she's just trying to figure it out. The lady wants to know whether he wants more students in his class, and the professor replies that he doesn't. She also informs him about the princess in his class, but doesn't reveal her name to him. She shows her high expectations for the professor. She then leaves his office. The Chancellor is in an elderly-looking man's room. He is the same man who came to Rudiger at the train station, and the professor thought he was a butler. Here they are talking about Rudiger, and the old man is inquiring about him in detail. The Chancellor informs him about his strong character and the response of his students to his lecture. They feel satisfied. In their conversation, they also reveal that they know Rudiger is actually a stranger and disguises himself as the real professor. This shows they are above him and know everything he is doing. The old man concludes that he is not an ordinary person, otherwise he couldn't perform the way he is. Both agree to keep a close eye on him. Our protagonist is sitting alone in his office, still thinking about the Chancellor. He is doubtful about her. Does she know everything about him, or is she just curious? He forces his mind to stop thinking about her and starts focusing on his work. He starts reading the list of students, and the name of a noble family comes up, the Lumos family. While going through the list, he sees a boy's picture. He starts thinking maybe he knows him, but he can't remember from where. He isn't able to trust them completely. He still can't decide whether to stick with secret societies or trust the management of the academy. He has a lot of doubts about the real Rudiger. He could be a disguise artist and infiltrator. He looks worried about getting caught, so he decides to go with the flow and continue teaching here. Suddenly, a postman appears at his door, hands him a letter, and leaves. It's a patrol schedule. It's his turn for patrol duty. He remembers it in his agreement. In the academy gymnasium, students are practicing different sports. A royal girl, Dinama, orders a commoner girl to leave, but the girl stands her ground. The noble girl is rude and disrespectful to her fellow commoner students. Dinama throws a magic spell at the poor girl. Suddenly, our protagonist intervenes between them and neutralizes her spell. Now he wants to teach that arrogant royal girl a lesson and orders Dynama to follow him. Both of them start walking outside. The bad girl says something rude about our protagonist behind his back. Rudiger puts his hand on her shoulder and tells her to behave because he is a professor here and she is a student. Rudiger gives her a warning and leaves. After this incident, the students' love and respect for him increase even more. At night, Professor Rudiger is sitting outside on a bench, thinking about the incident. In his mind, he thinks he will last here for a maximum of 5 more days. In the morning, Rudiger is sitting with 2 female professors, having breakfast. Professor Selena brings up the story of werewolves and tells them that one of their students, who just returned from the city, saw one. Rudiger dismisses it, calling it just a rumor, and they laugh, calling it a ghost story. Miss Selena gets angry and tells them that she is researching the topic. The professor calms her down. The lady sitting next to Selena starts talking to Rudiger and praises his first lecture at the academy. She informs him that everyone is showing interest in his magic. The professor mentions the name Chris Benamor, who seems to be jealous of him. Late at night, Rudiger goes out in the city. It looks like he is waiting for the werewolf. After some time, the werewolf actually appears and tries to attack him. Rudiger easily throws the werewolf away and they start talking. It seems like they know each other. The werewolf replies that it's been a long time. The werewolf calls the protagonist Hyan Nim, and the professor calls him Hans. The werewolf and Rudiger start talking in a very friendly manner, as they have known each other for a long time. Rudiger inquires about the troubles he has been hearing about him. From their conversation, it turns out that they are close friends, and Hans has a medical condition. Whenever he gets beaten by any animal, he becomes that animal for some time. The werewolf asks the professor for the antidote, which he gives him. The werewolf turns into a handsome man, and the handsome man asks the professor who he is now. He replies that he is Rudiger Chelsea, a professor at Theron Academy. Rudiger inquires about the real professor and the secret organization known as the Order. His friend confirms it and tells him the organization is called the Group. Rudiger asks his friend for the bag he had asked him to bring. He gives the bag to the professor. As they are talking to each other, they suddenly see a real werewolf standing on a building. Both get scared. Our professor notices something shiny on the werewolf's neck and decides to check it out. Rudiger pulls out his gun and starts walking toward the monster. As he gets closer, he notices that the werewolf is restrained by something. The werewolf attacks him but cannot reach the professor, as he places a magical circle around himself. In a matter of seconds, Rudiger knocks the monster down with his magic powers. Suddenly, the werewolf stands up and jumps away. Rudiger starts running after him. Suddenly, the police appear and start looking for the werewolf. Our brave protagonist is still chasing the monster, both jumping from roof to roof, one after another. They end up on the roof of a moving train, where the werewolf stops running and faces our boy. They make eye contact, and the professor is fearless, determined to uncover the secret behind this monster. Our hero throws stars at the werewolf, but the monster is too quick and dodges the attack. Rudiger continues to attack again and again, but he can't hit it. After throwing a few more stars, the professor realizes that it's useless to keep throwing them. Suddenly, the werewolf charges at him. It runs towards Rudiger, and when it gets too close, it jumps, but our protagonist kills it with a single swing of his sword. Meanwhile, Rudiger's friend is still waiting for him on the street. The professor returns to his friend, shows him the werewolf's head, and tells him to keep an eye on the city, informing him if any news appears. The protagonist then heads back to the academy and reads the newspaper. To his surprise, someone is still killing innocent people in the city, and he wonders if there is another werewolf. The total number of deaths in the city has reached 10, which is very surprising. Rudiger enters the teacher's canteen, and other professors are talking about him and his magic powers, as well as the lecture he gave in his class. Rudiger sits next to his lady colleague, who tells him that 2 students were attacked by an unknown assailant. One of the students, who woke up today, informs the authorities that it was a hairy monster, and they see large wounds on their backs. Suddenly, a professor informs her and the others that the chancellor is entering the building and is about to make some important announcements. The chancellor informs them all that they have information about an assailant in the academy, but no one is sure who it is. Professor Huso B. Prutag disagrees with her information and tells her she could be wrong. He thinks it's impossible because the academy is under the protection of the Exilian Empire, and both victims come from noble lineages. In his view, some commoner students are behind these attacks. Huso continues, saying that only nobles are being attacked at the academy. The chancellor feels humiliated by these remarks, and all the noble professors agree with Professor Huso. In his view, it's just a rumor and nothing more. Our protagonist feels something on his shoulder. It's a spider. When he grabs it, it turns into a small letter, which talks about the 2 test subjects missing from the lab. This news scares the professor, and he starts thinking about who is sending these messages to him and why. The letter also demands that he meet them as soon as possible. The professor is deep in thought. The chancellor keeps things straight between her and Huso by saying they are informing students about the current threat in the academy, and everyone should keep up their good work. Management will take care of the rest, and they are increasing the night patrols at the academy. After concluding her business in the meeting, she starts walking out. Our protagonist is walking towards the restaurant when he feels someone hiding in the bushes. It's a girl. He calls her out and tells her to follow him to the restaurant. Now, they are sitting face to face at a coffee table, and the professor starts inquiring about the reason for her visit. The girl introduces herself as Sanita Lotion, a student from a noble family. The professor notices her hesitation and uses magic to secure their surroundings. After that, the girl informs him about the reality of the attacks. She confirms that both attackers are from their affiliated groups and that it's a mix of cryptid tests and black magic. Our protagonist informs her that he has been promoted to Zero Order. Sanita then tells him that these students were expelled from an organization for their unethical experimentation. She wants the professor to know every detail about these incidents. The professor informs her about his previous encounter with the werewolf in the city, and that he's going to take action against the remaining ones. The professor remembers that Sanita is the girl who met him when he first arrived at the academy. Our protagonist thinks she is a very talented young girl, but can't understand why she is disguising herself as a student here. Rudiger starts worrying about her safety because he knows that once she completes her duties and responsibilities, the Order will dispose of her. With these thoughts, the professor leaves the restaurant, appreciating Sanita. Now, the young lady sits alone at her table, thinking about Professor Rudiger. In the classroom, a lady professor is giving a lecture. At the end of the lecture, she informs the students that they must stay in their rooms at night, and whoever disobeys these orders will receive demerits. At the same time, a female student is thinking about the meeting between the professor and Sanita. She is curious why they are using magic to make their conversation soundproof. She feels sad and seems to be jealous of the girl. In the classroom, two students, Aiden and Leo, are talking about the werewolf and want to find out who is behind it. Aiden is more sensible and is not willing to take any kind of risk. But Leo informs him that there is a reward for werewolves in the city if they can inform the authorities about it. In the end, they decide not to go out at night, as the lady professor makes it very clear that whoever disobeys will receive demerits. Suddenly, their classmate approaches them and starts to inquire about their conversation. Aiden leaves them alone, but Tacy wants to pick a fight with him. Leo refuses it and tells her to settle it some other way. Tacy challenges them, saying whoever catches the werewolf first wins. That bold statement from Tacy scares both boys, but Aiden accepts it, and Tacy leaves the classroom in anger. At night, our protagonist is walking alone through the streets of the city. To his surprise, he sees 3 students from his class. He reaches them, and upon inquiry, the students inform him that they are looking for the werewolf because of the reward on its head. Rudiger orders them to go back to the dorm immediately. Otherwise, they will receive 5 demerits each. The students obey their teacher. Rudiger starts walking and reaches the vicinity of the sewage treatment plant. Since the werewolf is entering the city from the sewage pipes, he enters the building. On the floor, there are footprints of 2 werewolves, one large and one small. He starts following them. After some distance, the 2 footprints separate from each other. The large one continues toward the academy, which scares our boy as he figures it out. Suddenly he hears loud shouts. He starts running toward the voices. After running for a few seconds, he sees a large werewolf attacking 2 of his female students. Our protagonist acts fast, jumps at the werewolf, and kills it with a single swing of his hidden sword. Now he looks at his students. He recognizes Renee and asks what is she doing here. To his surprise, the other one is Arendir von Exilion. Now, our protagonist is angry at both of his students and gives them 5 demerits each. Princess Arendir is not happy with the rude behavior of our professor and demands an apology from him. Rudiger refuses to apologize and orders them both to return to their dorm, but the princess is stubborn. Renee tries to calm the princess. The professor tells both girls that he is removing the demerits from them. Suddenly, a werewolf appears in front of them. The girls start crying and inform Rudiger about it. Rudiger attacks the werewolf with his hidden sword, but the werewolf starts running from him. Rudiger starts chasing it. The werewolf jumps onto the roof of a building. Our protagonist follows it and jumps onto the building roofs. Now the chase begins, from one building to another. Finally, the werewolf stops and attacks the professor. The boy uses magic to throw the monster away. They exchange punches. Rudiger dodges all the attacks. Both girls are watching the fight from a safe distance. They are surprised at the power and bravery of their teacher. Suddenly, Rudiger hits the werewolf with his cane and knocks it down. The werewolf starts falling from the roof. After some distance, the werewolf manages to control itself and stands on its feet. The girls are trying to understand the magic their teacher is using against the monster. Rudiger is surprised when the werewolf throws a large stone at him. He cannot believe that a monster like that can use tools. The werewolf jumps off the building and runs away from the professor, disappearing into the trees. Meanwhile, Aiden and Leo are wandering the forest, looking for Tacy, because she is in the forest looking for the werewolf just to win her bet. Leo wants to return, but Aiden doesn't want Tacy to get hurt just for a bet. Suddenly, they hear loud screaming from behind the bushes. They both start running in that direction. After some distance, they find Tacy standing near a sleeping baby werewolf. These students are completely unaware that a large werewolf is standing right behind them. A werewolf attacks the students. First, it throws Leo away with a hard hit. It turns to Aiden and hits him with its large claws. Aiden tries to stand on his feet. At the same time, Tacy attacks the monster in order to save Aiden, but the monster jumps at her. Aiden acts quickly and saves Tacy from the monster. Tacy shouts loudly at the werewolf that they are not going to harm it or its baby. The monster stops. It looks like it understands humans. The students are surprised. Now the werewolf isn't attacking them, meaning the monster is only protecting its baby. Suddenly, Rudiger appears and throws a magic net at the monster, capturing it. The professor is going to kill the monster, Tacy tells Aiden. Aiden and Tacy try their best to stop their teacher from killing it, but Rudiger has already made up his mind and throws a magic flame at the monster, burning it alive. After killing the werewolf, the protagonist turns his attention to his students and inquires about their presence in the forest at that time of night. The students are speechless. Rudiger orders the 3 students to return to their dorms as soon as possible. In the morning, the 3 students are sitting in their dorm room, waiting for their professor. To their surprise, Rudiger appears with the Lady Chancellor. The students are nervous and confused, understanding that the presence of the Chancellor in their dorm room isn't a good sign for them. Rudiger is angry, but the Chancellor smiles at the students. She gives them 10 demerits each, and after a few minutes of lecturing them about the possible danger, she offers them 20 merits for their bravery and support for each other in a time of danger. Rudiger is not happy with the Chancellor's soft reaction to these students. When the students leave the room happily, the Chancellor explains to the professor that the students stood by each other in danger, and no one was harmed because of him, so that's why she isn't giving them any demerits. Rudiger agrees to her and leaves the room. While sitting alone in his room, the protagonist is thinking about the werewolf. He thinks it was a real werewolf, not a humanoid. Still, it doesn't make any sense. There could be many more out there. He can still see the faces of the werewolf and its baby. His decision to kill them both is right because these monsters are killing humans everywhere. They aren't even animals. They are worse than animals. The protagonist takes a small globe out of his pocket. It's a communication device. He starts talking to someone named Hans through it. The 3 students, Tacy, Leo, and Aiden, are sitting outside their academy, talking about their experience. Aiden, the smartest among them, is still surprised that they received merits instead of demerits. He remembers the baby werewolf and the leash on its neck. It means someone is controlling these monsters. He also wants to know more about the rumor of suspicious people interested in their theory. The way Professor Rudiger killed the monsters is quite strange for them. There are possibilities that he is trying to hide some secrets from his students. Tacy isn't ready to hear anything bad about the protagonist. She rejects Aiden's thoughts and starts explaining how good their teacher is. But on the other hand, she also shows some concerns regarding Rudiger. Leo doesn't want to discuss these matters anymore and offers to join them for lunch as it's lunchtime. Tacy and Aiden agree, and they start walking toward the canteen. It's the start of a new friendship for Tacy and Aiden. Meanwhile, the professor is sitting in his office, talking to Hans through his small device. He receives information about a nearby abandoned factory where large people enter during the daytime, and many people are missing in the city. Hans also informs Rudiger that a family of 3, mother, father, and child, entered the factory and never returned. Outside the factory, 2 young men standing as guards talk about how they cannot stop parents from protecting their child once they become werewolves. The protagonist kills these 2 guards and enters the factory, where his friend is waiting for him. The professor's friend welcomes him by his real name, Hyungnim. After gathering all the details about the gang, the boy enters the factory. In a short period, Rudiger kills all the guards inside the building and starts walking toward the main room, where mafia bosses are sitting. These bosses already know about Rudiger's presence in their secret facility and are prepared for it. The protagonist enters the second room and within no time kills all the gunmen. Suddenly, an armed man appears in front of him with a huge electronic weapon attached to a large machine. But even the electric weapon can't stop the protagonist. As a powerful mage, combining elements of air and the electronic weapon, the professor easily eliminates his armor and kills him. Before entering the main room, where the insect brothers are hiding, he kills all the electronic bees, discovering they are spies for the insect brothers. Inside the room, the insect brothers are preparing for the final attack. Now they understand the power of the young boy. Inside the room, which is protected by an iron door and where many gunmen are waiting for him, Rudiger suddenly cuts off the electricity to the building. In complete darkness, the protagonist starts killing the insect brothers one by one. The guards' guns are useless. The professor cuts off one of the insect brothers' heads. To his surprise, one of the insect brothers stands up again. His hands start talking to him, and he transforms into a huge monster with many arms and legs. He starts killing his own men. The protagonist is surprised to see that he is destroying his own employees. The fight continues, and one by one gunmen die like flies. The monster is very fast and strong. It's not easy to control such power. Very soon the professor realizes that it's useless to use his 3rd rank magic on him, but he still avoids using 4th rank magic. The professor decides to use his speed to his advantage. He quickly moves behind the monster. He is so fast that the monster thinks for a second that Rudiger has escaped from the building, but to its surprise he finds him standing right behind him. Now it's time for our protagonist to use his 4th rank magic after all. In the beginning, he tries his best not to use his full powers, but now he is helpless and must use it. Outside, his friend is waiting for him when he hears a loud blast from inside. Now he knows that Rudiger has completed his mission. After a few minutes, the professor comes outside with a big smile on his face and confirms that it's finally over. In a large palace, an elderly gentleman is extremely angry with his housemaids and servants. He throws plates from his dining table at them. In anger, he screams at them. He is upset. After some time, he goes straight to his room, talking to himself about the escaped werewolves from his lab. He is happy they were killed by some stranger. Suddenly, our protagonist calls him by his name, Belbort Rixon. The old man is surprised to hear his name from a stranger in his bedroom. Rudiger grabs him by the neck and pins him to the floor. Our protagonist is upset about the werewolf's 7-year-old baby. He still remembers the boy's smiling face as he thanked him for ending his miserable life. Now the professor is here to avenge that 7-year-old boy. The old man understands the purpose of this surprising visit in the middle of the night. The old man clears his intentions by informing Rudiger that he is trying to invent a medicine that can bring back youth, and this is the only reason he is testing his medicine on these peasants. The old man never cared about the meaningless lives of the poor and common people. For him, his purpose is much superior. Our protagonist injects the same medicine into the old man's neck. The old man is in great pain and shouts at him. Rudiger explains that this is his punishment. He checks the records of the old man's laboratory. It says a small dose can turn a human into a werewolf. He is curious about what would happen if someone takes a full dose. This is his punishment. Now he has to bear the same pain. Rudiger is thinking about the young boy. The old man's face starts changing into a monster's face. Now his entire body changes into a werewolf. Hearing the old man scream from his bedroom, his servants run into the room. To their surprise, they see a monster and start throwing magic flames at him. They have no idea that they are killing their own boss. Our young professor is standing in his friend's home who looks worried about him. This time, Hyungnim wants to take a new identity for himself, a better one. After saying goodbye to his friend, Rudiger leaves his home and starts walking near the river. A large number of reporters have gathered outside the beautiful mansion. Everyone is talking about Mr. Belbort Rixon and how a large werewolf ate him alive. It took his servant 1 hour to burn the monster alive. The National Security Bureau arrives there with her 2 assistants. The Grandmaster Tarina Lionhowl is leading. As she enters the building, she orders the police and security officers to hand over all the evidence and leaves the building. Now they begin their investigation. Grandmaster Tarina finds a secret door in the wall. It's a secret vault built for hiding black money. It's strange. All the money from this place is gone. They also find out that in a short period of time, both incidents, the death of Mr. Rixon and an abandoned factory being burned down, occurred. Our young professor is sitting in his room, thinking that he has lost too much power by using 4th-grade magic in the factory. He feels weak. Is he dealing with the aftershocks of it? After consuming some magical pills, our protagonist feels stronger than before. He is happy that he has cleared all the evidence. Suddenly he remembers Aiden. What if Aiden knows something about the professor's reality? He worries that if Aiden informs anyone about him, he will have to kill Aiden. Rudiger starts making his plan to execute Aiden. Aiden is a good student, and killing him would make the professor suspicious in the eyes of the Chancellor. Rudiger decides to rest because he needs to recover for future challenges. The National Security Bureau team is standing in front of the burned factory. Grandmaster Tarina is still trying to understand the connection between the abandoned factory and the death of Mr. Rixon. Both incidents happened at the same time. They are also suspecting the possibility of some magical experiments, possibly involving werewolves. Lloyd Sunbay brings the information about 3 injured students from Thorin Academy. They are also trying to figure out why the werewolves were burned by the professor. Through this investigation, they're getting closer to the professor. Every time something happens in the city regarding werewolves, Rudiger's name appears. In the classroom, students are talking about their new lecture for the day. At the same time, our protagonist enters the classroom. All the students look at him. The professor announces that he's going to deliver a lecture on the traits of cryptid subjugation of manifestation and explains that this is the basis of elemental attribution. It's also going to raise their elemental powers. The professor asks Anthony, a student, to stand up and try this magic. It contains earth, air, and water, but the student fails to activate it. Then our protagonist shows the class a practical demonstration. Rudiger explains to his students why it's called the foundation of all raw magics. Flora puts her hand up and explains that it's also effective in burning people. Our young professor starts explaining that it depends on the human purpose and where we use it. For example, fire is a sign of survival if it's freezing cold. Water can run water mills, and so on. Our protagonist starts assisting his students in practicing elemental attributes. The professor notices Aiden, who isn't practicing anything. Rudiger wonders if he's still thinking about the werewolves. Aiden explains that he's trying his best to concentrate on his work, but somehow it's not working for him. Rudiger feels angry at him. How can a good student be unable to understand the basics of manifestation? Clearly, Aiden needs special attention to learn and practice magic. The professor understands his weak points. Rudiger explains to his students that first, they must think about it in their heads, and then it will appear in front of them. That's the power of manifestation. The professor hopes his students will remember what he's teaching them. It's human nature to feel that fire is hot, ice is cold, and wind is cold. Rudiger is demanding special efforts from his students, encouraging them to feel the elements with their 5 senses. After all the effort from our professor, his students start producing results. But one of the female students is not impressed by her teacher. It looks like she already knows these topics. She demonstrates some advanced magic practices in front of the class. Yes, it's Flora, the same arrogant girl, but it starts getting out of her hands, and by starting it, she puts everyone in danger. The professor steps in and helps Flora control it. To her surprise, her teacher deals with her kindly and helps her gain control. Rudiger is explaining to Flora that she can control it, but she needs more practice. The professor gave her 10 demerits for putting all the students in danger. He continues about the difficulty of combining elements like fire and ice. Now Professor shows her how it's done. Everyone is amassed by looking at the level of excellence. Flora is feeling defeated. Rudiger appreciates the skills of Flora and very politely explains to her that it's not worth it to show off her talents to others to get attention. She must know her worth. Flora understands the concerns of her teacher. It increases his respect in Flora's eyes. After that, our protagonist concludes his lecture and tells Rain to follow him to his office. Now Rain and Rudiger are sitting in his office. He told Rain to sit and wait for him. Professor reaches the bookshelf and brings a book named as Understanding of Non-Elemental Magic and hands it over to Renee. The young men offer Renee a cup of tea and starts a conversation with her. He is explaining to her that how she can be a great mage in future, and her ability to use one element is unique. Professor suggests Renee to read this book, and he is giving her an assignment which she must complete. In the classroom, Aiden and his 2 friends, Leo and Tacy, are practicing magic tricks to control elements. Aiden is very good at his craft, and Tacy appreciates him. Suddenly, they look at a crowd of aristocratic students as they try to figure it out. A noble student, Javan Felio, comes near Aiden and starts insulting him. Aiden ignores him, but the noble student is very rude and shameless. After watching Javan's insulting behavior, his friends jump in to protect him. When Javan threatens Tacy, Aiden cannot control his anger and challenges him to a magical duel, which Javan accepts. A noble professor approaches them and starts insulting Aiden and his friends. At the same time, our protagonist enters the room and tries to find out what is happening. After discovering the situation, he tries to control it by calling off the duel, but at the insistence of the noble professor, they accept the challenge. Now the bet is on their duel. Rudiger decides to teach Aiden how to prepare for the duel. Rudiger starts teaching Aiden the required skills for a magical fight. He tells him to be careful and always pay attention. They begin their training immediately. Our protagonist thinks he must spy on the noble student to assess his skill level. They only have 4 days to prepare for the match. After the hard training, Aiden rests in his room and thinks about the duel. He doesn't want to lose, not for himself, but for his professor, who trusts him and takes his side. The noble professor is in his office with Javan, the noble student. They are also training for the match. The noble professor explains to Javan that his victory is confirmed, but he still needs to improve his magic because Aiden is under the wings of Rudiger, and they cannot take him lightly. They also express concern about how Rudiger is teaching unique magic practices to commoner students. The noble professor gives Javan a powerful magical drink to ensure his victory. On the day of the duel, everyone is surprised to see the Chancellor in the room. The noble professor, whose name is Chris Benamor, stands next to Javan, and Rudiger stands next to Aiden. The Chancellor expresses her concerns regarding the safety and security of the students. After some time, both players appear in front of the crowd, each protected by magical suits. Commoners start chanting for Aiden, and nobles chant for Javan. Finally, the match begins. Both players start attacking each other at full speed. Aiden surprises Javan with his power. Javan doesn't back down. He also attacks with all his might. In the middle of the match, Javan shows his superior skills and is almost close to victory. But Aiden decides to use his secret weapon, and Javan realizes it's a maneuver. Professor Chris Benamor cannot believe his eyes. How can a commoner learn this skill in just 3 days? It's next to impossible. Javan tries his best to break Aiden's focus, but he fails. Aiden throws Javan to the ground and stands in front of him. The referee announces, "The winner is Aiden." Young Aiden looks more surprised than everyone else. His friends start calling his name loudly. All the aristocrats are quiet and angry at Javan, who just lost to a common student. Javan feels he can't believe he lost. He starts behaving like a psychopath and attacks Aiden from behind with magic. Aiden manages to save himself, counters, and cuts the magic. Everyone is stunned by it. Professor Chris shouts, "Anti-magic," referring to a special type of magic that erases other magic. Aiden demands that Javan honorably admit his defeat now. Another student, Proyden Wolberg, who is sitting near them, carefully looks at Aiden. Professor Chris comes near Rudiger and shows his concerns about the anti-magic, wondering how a student could understand it. Our protagonist explains that it's not illegal for a student to learn and practice anti-magic. Professor Chris wants to know about the bet. Rudiger refuses to take anything from him and leaves the room. Rudiger reaches his office, where Sunita is already waiting for him. Our protagonist needs to know about the mission. She explains that the Chancellor is suspicious of her. Rudiger admits that he can't meet her in his office since she's an average student, but if she improves her studies and becomes an extraordinary student, they can meet in his office easily. She accepts it as a command from Zero Order and becomes very happy. Rudiger is sitting alone in his office thinking about the Chancellor and about forming a new organization. Suddenly, the device in his pocket, which looks like a small globe, starts ringing. The professor receives the call. It's Hans on the other side. He wants to inform Rudiger about some groups that are gathering in an alleyway. Our protagonist is surprised by Hans's quick information. Hans